In a world obsessed with connection where every detail of our lives can be uploaded, filtered, and broadcast to the world in seconds, a strange paradox is unfolding. We are more connected than ever before, and yet so many of us feel profoundly misunderstood, even invisible. In that search for intimacy, for being seen, many of us reach for the easiest tool at hand, oversharing. We open our hearts in the first 5 minutes of meeting someone. We pour our traumas, regrets, fears, and history into the laps of new acquaintances, co-workers, strangers on the internet. We tell ourselves we're just being real, being vulnerable, and that this is how we make authentic connections. But what if this kind of vulnerability is not strength, but desperation? What if oversharing isn't a mark of bravery, but a quiet scream from wounds that haven't yet healed? Today, we're going to talk about the dangers of oversharing, not just online, but in relationships at work, in friendships, and even with ourselves. We'll explore where the habit comes from, what it costs us, and most importantly, how to build real intimacy without giving away too much too soon. This is not a video about shutting yourself down or being emotionally cold. It's about learning emotional boundaries not as walls, but as the healthy doors and windows of a self-respecting life. Let's begin with the most fundamental question: where does the urge to overshare even come from? The roots of oversharing. Oversharing doesn't come from nowhere. It usually begins in childhood, where our first lessons in communication are learned. Some of us were raised in homes where deep reflective conversations were absent. Instead, we may have been surrounded by emotional silence, repression, or unpredictable expressions of feeling. In such environments, children don't learn healthy emotional regulation. They learn that silence means danger or disconnection. So in adulthood, they may swing to the other extreme, speaking too much, too fast, too soon. They've internalized a belief that the only way to feel seen or safe is to reveal everything up front. Others, however, grow up in overly permissive or chaotic households where boundaries are non-existent. Parents might discuss adult issues with children, expose them to things beyond their developmental capacity, or fail to model emotional containment. The message absorbed is, emotions are for display, privacy is unnecessary, and intimacy means no separation at all. Later, when these individuals enter adult relationships, they mistake intensity for closeness. They believe that emotional flooding, laying it all out, is the only route to trust. But the truth is, trust is built over time. It's not earned through trauma dumping, but through mutual curiosity, patience, and shared experience. Let's also not forget the role of social media. Platforms reward transparency, at least on the surface. We get likes and comments for tearful confessions, messy stories, and raw admissions. Algorithms don't care about context or healing. They reward content. The line between performance and authenticity becomes blurred. But while oversharing might give us a temporary feeling of connection, what happens after? The consequences. The morning after the overshare can feel like a kind of emotional hangover. You're lying in bed rerunning the conversation in your mind. Why did I say that? Did I say too much? Do they now think I'm too broken? Too much oversharing often leads to shame, not because there's something wrong with our stories, but because they were shared without care, consent, or a container that could hold them. One of the most immediate dangers is emotional vulnerability without reciprocity. You open up deeply to someone who simply isn't ready or equipped to meet you there. They may withdraw, ghost, or respond awkwardly. The result: you feel rejected, not for who you are, but for the way you were revealed. In professional settings, oversharing can sabotage your credibility. You may believe you're being honest and open, but colleagues or managers might perceive you as unstable, unprofessional, or boundaryless. Your story may be reduced to gossip or used against you when stakes are high. In friendships and dating, oversharing can create false intimacy. You may think you're connecting, but what's really happening is emotional bypassing. Instead of building a foundation of trust slowly, you dump years of pain onto someone you barely know and expect instant bonding. This often leads to relationships that burn fast and crash hard. There's no room for natural curiosity or pacing. The relationship becomes defined by emotional intensity rather than mutual growth. Worse still, chronic oversharers often don't remember what they've told to whom. They feel fragmented, exposed, and unmoored. Their identity becomes performative, shaped by the reactions of others rather than rooted in self-awareness. So how do we fix it? The illusion of connection. Here's something counterintuitive. Oversharing is not connection. It's often a performance of connection, a way to simulate intimacy without doing the slow work of building it. Real intimacy isn't fast. It takes time, tension, silence, and space. It requires the courage to not rush, to be misunderstood briefly, to let another person arrive at you gradually. Oversharing skips that process entirely. It says, here's all of me, now love me. But true connection doesn't come from dumping your soul onto someone. It comes from being witnessed bit by someone who's earned your trust and attention. And that's the key distinction: earning. We should not have to audition for love or closeness. If someone cannot accept the mystery of not knowing everything about you right away, they are not ready to know you at all. Just like we wouldn't hand over the keys to our home to a stranger, we shouldn't hand over the keys to our heart until we know it's safe. How to tell the difference? 700 words. How do you know when you're oversharing? Here are some signs you feel regret or embarrassment shortly after talking. The other person looks uncomfortable or changes the subject. You don't really know why you shared what you shared, it just came out. You hope the other person would like you more afterward. You feel drained, not relieved. These moments are valuable signals, not to judge yourself, but to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, was I sharing for connection or for validation? Did I feel seen or exposed? Was the other person ready to hold that part of me? When in doubt, remember, just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be said right now. Timing matters. Context matters. Consent matters. Healthy sharing feels like a dialogue, not a download. The path to healthy boundaries. Creating emotional boundaries isn't about becoming cold or withholding. It's about learning to pace yourself, to match depth with depth, to be vulnerable with wisdom. Here are some ways to begin. 1. Journal before you speak. When you're tempted to share something heavy, try writing it out first. This gives you clarity on why you want to share and whether you need an audience or just a release. 2. Practice saying less. Try going on a sharing fast. For a week, challenge yourself to listen more than you speak in intimate settings. Observe how it feels to hold space without rushing to fill it. 3. Build containers of trust. Before sharing deep parts of your story, ask, has this person earned access to this part of me? Have they shown consistency, empathy, maturity? 4. Normalize privacy. In a world that equates transparency with authenticity, remind yourself that privacy is not secrecy. You can be genuine without being naked. Some things are sacred not because they are shameful, but because they are yours. 5. Heal the wound behind the urge. Often oversharing is not the root problem, it's a symptom of unprocessed grief, loneliness, abandonment. Work with a therapist, journal deeply, or reflect with intention. The more you heal the wound, the less you need to bleed in public. In the end, oversharing is not a character flaw. It's a habit born from pain, a plea to be seen, to matter, to belong. But true belonging doesn't come from overexposure, it comes from discernment. From knowing that the most beautiful parts of us deserve careful delivery, not dramatic release. The next time you feel the urge to pour it all out, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, does this need to be said right now? And to this person, remember, you are not more lovable for being transparent. You are already lovable for being you. So protect your story. Share it like a sacred gift, not a desperate offering. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this reflection, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to this channel. We explore topics that nourish the soul and help you live more consciously. Let's continue building a world where we are both open and wise, where we speak from the heart but with dignity, where being seen doesn't mean being stripped bare, but being held in truth.